Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Inside GmG. Just before we start, there's a secret in this video. So I know I haven't done secrets in some time, but yeah, if you guys are able to find that hidden message, code, whatever it might be, pop it into the comments, let people know what it was you actually found, and yeah, good luck with that. If no one finds anything, I'll probably put out like some sort of hint next week, so check my Twitter for that. But yeah, let's start the show with what we always do, which is what I'm currently playing. So the first game is Shadows of the Dam that I've been playing, and this game is developed by Grasshopper Manufacturer, and it was published by EA, and it's a collaboration between Suda51 and Shinji Mikami, and those two combined basically create a very stylized Resident Evil-esque sort of product. And I'm only about 2 hours in, but I'm really enjoying it so far. I mean, if you've ever played any of Suda51 games like Lollipop Chainsaw or No More Heroes or something like that, the dialogue is very cheesy, and this game has that in abundance. There's a lot of jokes and stuff in there, so yeah, I recommend, if you're in for that style of game, to give that a shot. So the next game is Galaxy. This is like a small downloadable game. It's a 2D like roguelike shooter. You pilot like a spaceship, and what's unique about this game is the controls. I feel like just how you can maneuver in space in zero G. It feels really natural, and you can perform some really cool stunts. And also it does something that I love, that when games do this, where like the first half of the game you're just playing in a spaceship, everything's fine, you know, you're like, okay, this is pretty cool, and then they throw the curveball of like you can then transform into a mech, and it just completely changes how you approach battles and stuff. You can grab stuff, you can throw people into walls and stuff like that. So Galaxy, if you're into like side-scrolling like space shooters, even bullet hell shooters to an extent, you might find this one to be quite intriguing, because I did, especially if you appreciate tight spaceship controls, which this game has. So yeah, Galaxy is definitely one to keep an eye out for. So this week's topic is about game mechanics, and like what are like our favorite game mechanics and stuff like that. So be sure to leave in the comments like your favorite, you know, what game has it, why, all of that good stuff. But for me, there's two that really stand out. The first one is flight. You know, like flying in games is always something, is a fantasy that I think everyone has for like real life. So when you can do it in a video game, it's really nice that you can at least explore it on that level. And the two games that stand out for me that have executed it flawlessly, like there's other games that have, and I wouldn't say flawlessly actually, to be honest, because it's not really flawless, but because the strange thing about flying is that there isn't just one set way to do it. Yeah, and that's what makes it quite an exciting mechanic, is that you can explore it in loads and loads of different ways, right? And Anthem is probably a game that I think has executed it in the side of like getting the Iron Man fantasy down like to at least about 90%. I think they dropped the ball a bit in terms of combat whilst flying, but every other aspect of flying in that game is just brilliant, right? Another game is Gravity Rush 2, but Gravity Rush 2 is unique because you're not really flying, you float, and you can move whilst you're floating, which I guess is flying, but it's not in the same way. Like, once again, it's very different to how Anthem goes about doing it, because you can master gravity, she's always like floating around and stuff like that, but you can also shoot yourself into one particular direction. You can like stop that, but you can't stop and then move, right? So for example, you'll see in the footage anyway, is like you could like propel yourself upwards, start floating, and then like stop floating and fall. So you can like fall really gracefully. Is a different way, but it does give you still the same sensation. And I think those two games had an idea for like a mechanic and they executed it, right? And I am like super impressed with what they did with Anthem, because before then we've never had like a game where you can fly and it feel like you're flying, and also at the same time feel like you're heavy, because when you switch to classes in Anthem, like I play the like Colossus, which is the really heavy one. Yes, I can still fly, but when I'm about to hit the ground, it feels like, you know, some like 8-ton thing is about to hit the ground, right? And that's a testament, you know, to them looking at that particular mechanic and then really spending the time on that. Arguably, you could say that's where 100% of their time went to with Anthem, but it paid off in that respect at the very least. And the same thing with Gravity Rush 2. The next mechanic, and this one's like probably my favorite one, and is one that is in some video games and also once again can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. I think is a lot harder to achieve in video games, and that's teleportation. Yeah, and teleporting in a video game is something that is almost like a passive thing. Like you witness it, but you don't really have control because it is just going from point A to point B. But the game that I feel up until this point has actually executed it really well is Final Fantasy 15, right? And because they centered it around you throwing a weapon and then you teleporting to that weapon, right? Yeah, and essentially you could even say that it's almost like the idea of teleportation in games design is essentially a grappling hook, but you don't have that transition of you being pulled towards where you use the grappling hook to. So it's just instant with it. So the idea of getting that to work is easy. What they did in Final Fantasy 15, which you could see as a good thing or a bad thing, is there's only certain places that you could teleport to, and the game would allow you to then just warp there. So they call it warping, and I don't mind that. I just wish they added more points where you could do that, because it seemed like there was only one, and it has a gameplay use. It's not just to look cool. I mean, it does look cool, but it recharges your health and your MP when you do it, right? So when you throw it against a wall or a tower and you're hanging from there, your health is recharging. So it was quite smart the way they incorporated that. It would have been cool if they just put a bit more points of interest around the map, saying that it wasn't like that was the only way you could teleport. Depending on what weapon you would hold, you could throw it. I mean, you could teleport with any weapon, but some weapons it's a lot easier and it's a lot faster. So like if you've got a katana, the way they throw it it's a lot quicker and it travels further, I think, right? It might be one of those illusions of the eyes, but it does look like it actually allows you to travel a bit further, and that you can just do on demand. Like you just press triangle and it acts as like a dodge. But if you want to like pinpoint, say like I need to get over there, you can throw it. How would I have liked them to evolve that? Maybe so that you had some sort of targeting thing similar to like what I was saying, if it was like a grappling hook, so you can target a point and then press the button and then you're there. And I think maybe this game already had like, you know, a lot of development time, or at least them getting the concept down of doing that, but it doesn't seem like they were ever able to perfect and meet at the one which they were showing, which was you being able to independently target places and then zip there, right? But that's quite hard to do. You might, you know, who knows if they'll ever revisit a mechanic like that, but teleportation is definitely a very intriguing one. There's a game called Velocity 2X on the Vita. You can teleport in that. It's like a shooter, side-scrolling shooter, but that's awesome. Like that nails it really well, and it does it in a way where you hold the button and you have direct control where you're going to TP to, but you can like do it really snappy. So that's another game that executes that nicely. But yeah, TP is one that I feel is difficult to nail, because you want it to feel fast and fluid, because it has to be, by its nature, but at the same time, you don't want it to feel like you're just a bystander just watching it. You want to feel like, yeah, man, I looked at that point and then I went straight there. And I think Final Fantasy up until this point, Final Fantasy 15 has gotten the closest to that. Overwatch has a character that can do it, Symmetra, that has portals, but even with that, they ran into trouble because they couldn't figure out how to make someone who teleporting you should be able to, like, if you can create portals, it should be very quick, but it was just always felt slow and disconnected. And Overwatch is a super fast game, and they weren't, I don't think, to this point, I still don't think they've ever been able to successfully do it right. You know what I mean? Like, make it like the portal gun or something like that, I would say, would be the easiest thing to do. I mean, she already uses a gun, so just make her portals like that. And then teleportation in that way can be quite fast and fluid. Maybe OP, and that's probably why they didn't put something like that in the game. But, you know, in terms of Symmetra and Overwatch, I think that's the only thing they could really have done to speed it up. But yeah, no, that's it. I just wanted to throw some ideas. I'm really interested to see what mechanics you guys find interesting and cool. So feel free to leave any comments or hit me up on Twitter or whatever about game mechanics that you like, the improvements, what you would like to see, what they haven't done, what you think they should do. You know, we'll have a conversation around that. But yeah, that's going to be it for Inside GMG episode 4. I will see you guys in the next episode. Be sure to take care of yourselves. Stay safe. You know what I'm going to say. Wash those hands, and I'll see you next week.